Hey, what's up, Giants fans? Welcome to another episode of Giants Talk. I'm Cole Kuiper here with Giants insider Alex Pavlovic. Our guy Alex is on the ground in Orlando for the winter meetings, and he caught up with Buster Posey, future Hall of Famer, Giants president. You know him. We're going to have him later on this episode, so stay tuned for all the updates you want from the big man. Before we get started, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini's Sleep World. Rest easy with huge savings during the year-end clearance sale at Mancini's Sleep World with Beauty Rest Queen mattresses from $299. Don't sleep on this. Shop sleepworld.com. All right, Alex, I'm going to give you the same beginning question I gave you on the last episode. Maybe we'll get a more interesting answer. How are the winter meetings going?
How are the winter meetings going? How are the winter meetings going? We had some action, including
We had
last
some,
time,
some league-wide
I
action.
think right after we finished and this got posted. Edwin Diaz went to the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
What else happened? Kyle Schwarber to the
Yeah.
Phillies.
Pete Alonso.
Pete Alonso, now a Baltimore Oriole. Congratulations to Craig Albanez and Donnie Ecker and Dustin
Mm-hmm.
Lind, who seem to have hopped on at a good time in Baltimore.
Really feels like it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know. My brain doesn't work at this point. Like, we're just all walking around this hotel. And I think I mentioned last time there was like a lazy river. There's
Yeah.
also this golf course out there that there's just nobody ever on. And it's a beautiful golf course. And I'm like, would anybody miss me if I just went and played 9?
You're telling me no GMs are sneaking away to have like a 9-hole business round?
I have not seen anybody on that course in 4 days.
Wow.
We're just staring out here at a lazy river and a golf course, and we're all sitting indoors and eating Disney priced food and waiting for things to happen.
Alex, be the change you want to see at the winter meetings.
Go
Get
play
in that
golf.
lazy river and tell everyone else to follow you.
Go play golf. I might. I considered like just doing Giants talk from the lazy river,
Do it.
but then we had very, very exciting MLB draft lottery. We had the Rule 5 drafts, so it's
Let's
kept me
talk
busy the
about
last couple
those.
weeks.
Start with the draft lottery. Giants, what were they like set at 12?
It was electric. It was really, really like.
Yeah.
So we talked to Buster at 4:45 in the afternoon. Draft lottery is at 5:30. The way it's set up here, there's 2 hotels. The lottery's kind of in the middle of it. Me and the other beat writers are walking back, and I'm like, I'm tired. I have been on my feet for like 12 hours. I'm like, you know what? I might just go watch this in my room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to pop in here when the Giants get selected at 15. I'll just go up to my room and take a little break, do some writing, prepare for Giants talk. And we're standing there, and all these names keep coming off, and we're like, oh, Giants moved up in the lottery. So it actually was like really, really fun to be in the room for that. And everyone's kind of trying to figure out where they're going, and you're sitting there going, are they actually going to go up to like number 1? Because they had a 1.01% chance of having the first pick. They end up at 4th, but it was cool. And Randy Wynn comes off the stage. He represented them. Good luck charm, our friend Randy Wynn. And Michael Holmes, our amateur scouting director, just ran up and gave him a high five. And was like, way to go, Randy. And it's, I've written about it, and I know it sounds like draft lottery, whatever, but it's a huge deal. It is a massive deal. We're talking about the number 4 pick in next year's draft in what is supposed to be a loaded draft with multiple guys at the top. Like, from what I've heard, 4 or 5 guys at the top who could go number 1 in other years. So you are going from an 81 season where they had the 12th best odds because there were some teams that get taken out by being in the lottery over and over again of having the number 1 pick, and you end up number 4. They've picked in the top 5 times in their history. It was Will Clark, Matt Williams, Jason Grilly, Joey Barton, Buster Posey. Like, you can see the kind of talent you get there. And I think the important thing here is, one, just, it's just another avenue to adding young talent at a time when they need it. The number 4 pick should be really good. They have the advantage of Tony Vitello, who has recruited probably all these guys and coached against them. So this is one of the bigger draft picks in franchise history, but they're set up pretty well with Tony, I think. And at least for a couple of years, Tony will be really knowledgeable about all those college guys. And, so that's important. We're seeing a time when, you see like what the A's are doing with these guys who get drafted and basically right away come up, and we're seeing a lot of that around the league. We talked about Trey Savage in Toronto and the impact that higher end prospects can have. And I talked to some Giants people, and they were just like, it's such a big difference, like the top 5-7 guys, as opposed to being down in the teens where they've been, just in terms of high upside. And then the last thing I'll say about it is I guess we haven't aired our season review where you and I were both like, we didn't talk about Joshua enough.
I'm glad you pointed that out, because I was about to pop in with, and we've already talked about Joshua, but
That's
you're right.
coming.
That is airing at a later date.
Coming to a TV near you. But he had a tremendous season. He's a top 100 prospect. They're going to get Luis Hernandez from Venezuela, who's the top international prospect this year. So back-to-back years with the top international position player prospect, and you throw a number 4 pick into that mix. Like it's a very quick way to for a team that hasn't bottomed out, a very quick way potentially to like have 3 top 100 guys to add to their farm system. So. Yeah. And it just comes out of nowhere too. Just literally comes from a lottery. Like they did not tank. They went 81-81, and here they are.
It's going to be really interesting. I mean, we're at the point where I don't know who the number 4 guy is going to be. We have half a year until the draft, half a year plus. But it's exciting. Now we get to actually be part of the zeitgeist, be part of the fun. Will the guy we thought was number 1 fall to 4? Plus those names you read off. Historically, the top guys the Giants have locked in, with the exception of Joey Bart. I mean, those were big time Giants impact players.
Yeah, Jason Grilli, not so much, but no. But I mean, recent guys too. I mean, there's some big time recent, like Kyle Schwarber was a 4th overall pick, and I just think the way guys are developed now, like you see the top college position players, a lot of them now seem like they are a year away. So. Mm-hmm. It's huge, and it just kind of came out of nowhere. And it's a lot of good has happened this week for the Giants behind the scenes. I mean, aside from we gave Matt Chisholm a shout out the other night, Jeff Kent, obviously, Brad Grimes and Gavin Cuddy, their clubhouse guys, both won awards. Karen Sweeney,
first time ever that the home and visiting clubhouse guys have brought home both halves of the same award on the same year. So Giants cleaning up behind the scenes.
Shout out to Karen Sweeney as well, who works in their front office. She got an award the other night. So they're doing very well behind the scenes, and I think that the main thing here just is this is going to be out front and center next summer. I mean, we are not going to. I don't think we're going to be watching college baseball all of a sudden, but
no.
I've been doing this a long time, and I've covered 1 top 10 pick in Joey Bart. So we will have more draft coverage than usual next summer, I guess, and we'll be paying closer attention than usual next summer.
If we're going to shout out Brad Grimes and some of the other people who won awards at the winter meetings, I'd like to give a shout out to Joe Buck, bringing home the Ford Frick Award. There's been quite a few iconic Giants moments, like the Ishikawa walk-off voiced by Joe Buck. We haven't heard him in a while because he doesn't really do baseball anymore, and because the Giants haven't been as active in the playoffs as they were a decade ago. But yeah, Ford Frick, Joe Buck.
Very, very mature of you.
Yeah, I don't think I think I'll get in trouble if I do my
I can get in trouble.
But I mean, you're not going to see me get aggregated, but you, by all means, get out there.
I mean, I already tweeted and angered, nobody really. I don't know. Some Houston Astros fan was yelling at me. I'm like, what's your relationship to Joe Buck? Obviously, Dwayne is your father. He was on the ballot. I adore your father. He comes on here occasionally when we need someone to fill space when the Giants are losing.
Yep.
And so no, I would love him to get in. I think I have never been as anti Joe Buck as like the internet, I guess.
In fact, I think the internet's attitude towards him made me like defend him more than I otherwise would have.
Yeah, I think he did a good job. I think I've heard him on some podcasts over the years where I'm like, oh, there's a whole other side to Joe Buck than maybe what we saw. And it's just the old, like, the internet hates everybody. So I think 2 things for me, like, one, he's 56. He was the second youngest guy ever to win it. And a lot of these awards, there is an element of, there's some older guys, and you want guys to be able to celebrate and get honored when they can. And Joe, I think, has a long time to be potentially on that on that ballot. And then the other thing that stood out to me was just he has chosen a different path and has chosen to
Yes.
be the voice of Monday Night Football. Good for him. I'm sure he has made an obscene amount of money doing it, and he has a lot more people watching him than he did before. But some of these awards, our Baseball Writers Hall of Fame award this year went to a guy, Paul Hoynes, who's just like the ultimate grinder and has been just an ultimate baseball lifer. And I think it's like 30, 40 years for him doing this and covering a ton of games every year. And so I looked at the ballot, and this is aside from Dwayne, I just felt there's a lot of these guys here who have been doing this for 30, 40 years and are there for 150, 155 games a year for their local fans. And that is who I would have rewarded. And I think my reaction maybe would have been different if it was one of the other local people. I think baseball is such a local sport. And to me, that's special. And I like seeing those people on the ballot and like seeing them rewarded. From what I've heard here in Orlando, there were maybe some other national media people who stood up in that room and wanted more national people honored, and Joe Buck's as national as it gets.
Yeah.
But that's my thought on the whole thing. And I hope down the line we're celebrating not just Dwayne, but Mike as well.
Yeah. You kind of said exactly what my point was going to be. There were a lot of really, really talented guys. In addition to Dwayne Kuiper, I mean, I didn't know much about Jacques Doucette before reading up on him. Fascinating. Had to like invent baseball terminology in French to cover games. Gary Cohen, I don't know. Just
Don Sterling, it was
picking a guy who doesn't do baseball anymore, and even then, like, is younger and not. Yeah, it just seemed like me, a guy who likes Joe Buck, was very surprised by the pick.
I was surprised too. But we wish the best for our broadcasters.
Yes,
down the line,
yes.
And maybe a year from now. I mean, everyone here is just kind of like has the same thought that a year from now it's Buster and Bochy and Baker head of the Hall of Fame. So maybe there will be it'll be a full celebration.
All right, we'll take solace in that being possible for July 2027. Do we want to dive in on the Rule 5, or does that deserve its whole episode?
Well, we have a Rule 5 trade.
Yes.
So
can you explain the mechanics of this? Giants pick a Rule 5 player, and then it gets pivoted to a trade.
The Twins picked Daniel Suzak for them because they were well ahead of the Giants in the Rule 5 order. Giants, I talked to David Forst afterwards, the A's GM. He said the Giants called about Daniel Suzak. They never really matched up on anything, and he was kind of like, we'll take the risk and see if we can keep him. In an ironic twist, part of the reason the A's did not protect Daniel Suzak, who is a 2022 first-round pick, hit 18 homers in AAA last year, albeit a very hitter-friendly league, and Las Vegas is a launching pad, so take that into account. But, a decent prospect and a young catcher. Part of the reason they didn't protect him was because they brought Austin Wynns back, our old friend, as their backup. So they have Shea Langoliers, Austin Wynns. Felt like Daniel Suzak wasn't going to be on their roster. The Giants go and make a trade for him. They trade a young minor league catcher, some cash to cover what the Twins had to pay for him. But yeah, the Rule 5 provisions are in place. So we've talked a lot of Rule 5 over the years. Blake Sable was a Rule 5 catcher. That to me, Giants won't say this. That to me makes him the clear front runner to be Patrick Bailey's backup.
Yeah.
Jesus Rodriguez is our other catcher in camp. But I mean, you have two young right-handed hitting catching options, and one of them is a Rule 5 pick. Like, he has to make the opening day roster, or you wasted this pick. So that to me makes him the favorite. We'll see how spring goes, but I think he's in a pretty good spot right now. And obviously the younger brother of Andrew, who was Buster Posey's backup for 2 years and actually came out last year to a game. I saw him. So
it makes too much sense. Bring Andrew Suzak's brother in. I want to say, wasn't Andrew Suzak a NorCal guy?
They are Roseville.
All right.
Yeah. So and I think, we're at kind of this unsexy point of the offseason, but I do think they've done a pretty good job of getting these left-handed relief options, getting these outfield depth options, Justin Dean, Joey Weimer, now getting the backup catching option. So they've filled some cracks here where if they're not able to strike on something bigger at some of these positions, like they've added some depth, which I think they've done a nice job of doing that in a very cost-controlled way at a time when they're a bit cost-controlled,
Yeah.
to make sure they have enough for starters. So these aren't like the biggest moves, but to get a couple young options to be your backup catcher going into camp, I think that's pretty good work.
Yeah. Yeah. We kind of talked about the big signings already, but just worthy of at least another point of discussion, maybe each. I think the big one that impacts Giants fan the most is Dodgers signing the top closer on the market in Edwin Diaz, basically locking him down for the rest of his prime.
Yeah, it's like we screwed up on our closer last year,
Yeah,
gave him way too much money. So here's Edwin Diaz.
yeah,
But I have a hard time getting as worked up about this one because the Mets let him go, and
yes,
they also let Pete Alonso go, and it's like some of these things are choices. Like it's we talk a lot about teams that have the money to do things, but if you're the Pirates, you have more money than you say you do, but you also probably don't want to spend $23 million on a closer.
yeah.
If you're the Mets, it's your guy. You can do it. And
I have to imagine that they have Juan Soto, obviously, but I think Alonso and Diaz are probably behind Soto in the most worn jerseys in the stands at Citi Field.
yeah, Lindor probably right there as well, but those two, I have a friend who's a Mets fan, and the Pete Alonso, that one hit him like a pile of bricks. I mean, that hit him hard. So it is at some point like, a lot of these general managers kind of do it the same way now, and there's, for better or worse, there is a line that they won't cross, and the rumor is the Mets never even made an offer to bring Pete back because they knew that the years and dollars were going to get to a number that they didn't like. But if you're a Mets fan and David, or Steve Cohen's your owner, and they're putting a casino up next to the ballpark, and you're paying all this money, and you're riding the train to go 45 minutes out there, and they say they don't want to spend. What did Pete end up with?
150.
They don't want to do that. You have a right to be pissed, I think. And I'll give credit to the Dodgers in this respect. Like, they don't really seem to care if some of these deals look awful, and they obviously have more money to kind of swallow that than a lot of teams do, but they don't have more money than the Mets. So they don't have more. There's other teams, the Yankees, the Cubs, the Red Sox, these teams that kind of pull back on guys, and you have to give credit to the Dodgers who just go, yeah, we'll pay Mookie. We'll pay Edwin Diaz. At a time when we're talking a lot of money on this podcast, things like this, you just kind of go like, a lot of teams could have done this. I mean, look, the Giants, if they wanted to, could have. I wouldn't have given Edwin Diaz like 3 years, $75 million, but they can afford to.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if the Dodgers' strategy kind of gets to the point that it normalizes it to fans, because you can tell from your Mets fan friends, from the Giants fans in our mentions, every fan base now expects their team to spend the way the Dodgers spend.
And I don't think that's unreasonable.
Yes.
In a lot of ways. I mean, you don't have to spend $400 million. You don't have to do quite what they've done. They have a lot of advantages. Shohei gave them the biggest gift in the world.
Yep.
But everyone can afford more than they're doing. I mean, everything I'm hearing here, it's like, why is it so quiet? And it's teams are just kind of there's a lot of groupthink here, and a lot of like, why would I pay the closer $23 million when, and you don't have to pay 20, but why would I pay my closer 15, 18 million when I can bring in a minor league free agent and hope that he picks up 2 miles per hour on his fastball? Like it's kind of what we've talked about with the Giants closer situation. Like they say they have in-house options. We don't see them as much as maybe, but there's been guys who have come off the board in terms of relief pitching that would have been fine, I think, money-wise for them to go and get. And at some point it comes down to your personal preference.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have a lot of mailbag questions on this episode about this very topic. But before we get to those, want to shout out a couple of moves that have happened since the last time we've had, I guess, a normal episode, the Jeff Kent episode, didn't really give us much space to fill in updates, but
Yeah, let me
Javi
just say too.
Lopez.
First, I did talk to Buster a little bit about money and like where they stand, and we talked before the Pete Alonso deal came out. So it was when I'm like, it's been quiet. It was a little bit quieter. Like,
Yes.
but yeah, I mean, it is, we've asked him that question. I've asked that question behind the scenes a lot this week. Like, what exactly is going on? I think my main takeaway from this week on that front, and you and I have obviously talked about Imai and the 9-figure pitching contracts and all that, is I think they have, as it was described to me, like Buster has to choose his battles a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Rafi Devers was like all in, and that's one they felt really comfortable with. I don't know that I think part of this is I don't think they love this free agent class.
Yeah.
And there are some guys, and you and I have talked about this a little bit. There are some guys where you just kind of go like, yeah, I wouldn't be in a rush to pay that guy $100 million. So I think that's part of this delay here, and we'll see if those prices come down. But just from a Giants perspective and where they are at financially, like Buster has the ability to go to Greg Johnson and ownership at times and say, this is necessary.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a year where they see guys that they necessarily fall in love with.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Real quick updates on some moves in the front office and coaching staff. Javi Lopez and Kurt Casale hired, working behind the scenes. Good to have both of those guys back in-house.
Often seen together here in Orlando.
Yeah.
And both of them coming on Giants Talk next month. So good time to subscribe.
And then on the coaching front, Ron Washington adding a veteran presence to this Tony Vitello-led squad as the infield instructor, and then Jesse Chavez will be bullpen coach.
Yes, things that a lot has gone on the last week. I think this was out there last week, obviously. They are, as we sit here and talk on Wednesday afternoon, very, 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 very close to releasing their full coaching staff. They're actually all
out by the time you're listening.
Yeah, they're all headed here. I think there's just one or two guys that need to like finalize things, but they're pretty much in place. And I will say, we've talked about how we kind of like the makeup of it. It's something I've heard from a lot of people down here in Orlando from other teams, just that they kind of like what they've done. And some of these connections, I'll write about this in the coming days, but some of it starts to make more sense when you realize like who Tony knows and who he's getting advice from. And but yeah, they feel really good about what they've put together.
Awesome. All right. I want to get to Buster Posey here on Giants Talk, but first we have a handful of mailbag questions, mostly about the Giants spending money. Before we dive into that, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini's Sleep World. Rest easy with huge savings during the year-end clearance sale at Mancini's Sleep World with Beauty Rest Queen mattresses from $299. Don't sleep on this. Shop sleepworld.com. All right, Alex, the first mailbag question for today is from Sandra. Sandra says, any word on getting Tyler Rogers back?
I don't think it's as automatic as we like joke about.
Yeah.
So I'll just say that. He going back to the deadline, we were just like, cool, see you in November.
It's inevitable.
Early in the offseason too, we're like, when are they going to announce the Tyler Rogers deal? I don't think that one's is automatic is we've maybe all thought. So
yeah. All right. Sorry, Sandra. Nick asks, why haven't I heard anything about the Giants being in on Bo Bichette? He just proved he can play second base in the World Series, and that's the biggest infield hole we need to fill right now. Alex, I feel like we've gotten very similar questions and done the similar answer that if the Giants spend money, it's probably not going to be at second base, right?
They're looking into some, despite what they've said about liking Casey and Christian Koss, they're sniffing around the second base market. I don't think to that end because, again, if you're going to spend 150, 200, whatever this ends up at, like at some point, do you want like the $1 billion infield, but no one to get the ground balls?
Yeah.
So, the strong preference right now is going out and fixing the rotation.
Bo asks, why are the Giants acting like they're poor? I mean, yes, they have spent, but their overall payroll is down from previous seasons, and they can talk about the 17 million owed to Snell, but don't they have to put that money away after the contract is signed? At least that's how I understood the rules of deferred contracts when I was looking into the Dodgers.
You do have to prove that you can pay that money. This is a signing bonus. I don't know exactly how that's viewed in terms of like, this isn't like the Ohtani situation necessarily,
Hmm.
because it was only like what, 3 years down, whatever it was, 2-3 years down the line.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, they owed Blake Snell a pretty hefty signing bonus on January 15th, and that is, it's one. You kick that can down the road, and then at some point you're faced with it.
Yeah.
I Again, like it's like you knew you had to pay this. This is part of it, but I think that is one thing that's Bags has done a great job of writing about. I've written about this. We've talked about it a little bit here. Like there are a few other things here that are on their books. The Blake Snell signing bonus being one of them. The 10.5 million they're paying to managers next year being another.
Hmm.
So including Bob Melvin's 4 million. So we may disagree with it, and we may say like you made this bed, but if you're sitting there internally, you look at it and go, those things do count. So
Yeah. Brian asks, since the article came out basically confirming that the Giants won't go after Imai or the other top pitchers, do you see them aggressively in the trade market, like for a Freddie Peralta or a Joe Ryan?
yeah, Joe Ryan's apparently not available, but I think they are being very aggressive from what I've heard in the trade
Hmm.
market. Part of the problem here is it's hard to make trades, and this is the difficult part of the offseason is it's just hard to match up sometimes, and I think that's what we've seen, like a lot of prospect hugging over the years, and I don't think that's necessarily from their side in this case, but I think they're willing to give up guys to get some veterans. But it is hard, and they still don't have like the greatest farm system, even though it's much better. So when you put yourself in that position where you have to make the trades, it becomes more difficult in the winter as opposed to just like winter is really for free agency more than anything. There are big trades there. You can get help every year in trades, but it is difficult if you put yourself in that spot where you're like, if you're not going to spend on the big guy, like, yeah, you kind of have to go get one of these guys in a trade.
Why can't they just do a little Mitch Haniger and Desclafani for a future
Ooh,
All Star move?
run it back.
Yeah,
Who's this year's
I
version of
wouldn't
that?
mind another one of those.
I think no. From everything I've heard, and I've talked to some other teams, I mean, they're being very aggressive. I think there's some frustration on the Giants' end of just
Yeah,
kind of not being able to complete some of these trades.
yeah. One more from Adam before we get to Buster Posey. Adam says, if the Giants aren't ever willing to give a Japanese pitcher a long-term deal, why even scout them? They have to know what it will take to sign these pitchers.
Yeah, they were willing to give Yamamoto 300 million. So
Yeah.
this is again where I come down to. It's a weird part of this offseason because I think a lot of these answers are behind the scenes. Like, how much do you just really like this guy?
Yeah.
And they're not allowed to talk about free agents, period. They're definitely not allowed to say like, we don't think this guy is worth X amount of money. So I don't know. In the case of Imai, I mean, clearly they have evaluated him much differently than they evaluated Yamamoto, who
Hmm.
they were willing to
Back up the
fully
truck.
willing, yeah, fully willing to write that $300 million check for him. Fully willing to accept Shohei Otani's $700 million, whatever he came up with. So I think in this case, with a lot of the guys in this class, they just feel a little bit differently about them than
Yeah.
other guys. Now it is, it does start to add up. Like the years start to add up, and you go like, you want to be active in this market. At some point, you have to do something you're uncomfortable with
Hmm.
if you truly want to be active in this market. But I also don't think you should force it if you don't feel great about it. So we'll see where it all goes with Imai. Nothing's really happened in general. So some of these guys, one of these guys is going to be sitting there in a couple weeks and like being like, okay, where's the,
Yeah.
similar to Blake Snell a few years ago. Like,
Exactly what I thought.
yeah, I mean, one of these, and I don't know if that's when the Giants swoop, but you look at some of the guys who are still out there, not just Imai, but Framber Valdez and Ranger Suarez, and even go to a lesser level with Zach Gallen and Michael King. And it pays in a way to be patient. It is really hard as a fan to be patient and wait. So I get it, but that's where I think we always kind of come down on the side of like, let's evaluate after everything is done. But yeah, to this question specifically, you never stop scouring that market. And I'll use the example again of the international market, because I think it's really important what they're doing. And there were years and years and years of them coming up short. And it's like, what was it, like a couple decades where Pablo Sandoval is basically it. Yeah, that's about all you have to show for all the money you're spending down there and the scouts you have down there. And
all you have to show is a handful of World Series trophies on the back of Pablo Sandoval.
That's a great point. Great point. You have a lot to show for it. But yeah, you miss on a lot of guys and you spend a lot of money on Lucius Fox and it doesn't work out. And
yeah, the Lucius Fox one, it's crazy to look back on.
Yeah. But you keep, I think it's one of those things where they're international guys. You keep grinding and you keep grinding and you keep grinding. And they're in a great mood right now because this is going to be back-to-back years, most likely, where they sign the top international position player. And they absolutely love both those guys. So similar to the Asian market, I mean, you keep grinding and grinding, and in one of these years, you hopefully get your Yamamoto.
Yeah. It's, as we kind of reiterate that it really feels like this year's availability and draft class and international dudes ready to come over is not what they're looking for. It's going to be, I don't know, a whole different ballgame talking about next free agency with what's looming on the horizon.
Well, who even knows? Yeah, who even knows?
How is that going to work? What are we going to be talking about in December?
Yeah. Honestly, just as someone who's just a fan of baseball, I'm curious to see where some of these numbers go with some of these guys.
Yeah.
I watch these guys all the time, and we see them face the Giants. I vote on awards for them and everything. And I see some of in early November when I'd see some of these stories, and it's like projections for this guy, projections for that guy. I'm like, holy, really? That's what you're putting on him? But I think one thing we've learned over the years that oftentimes, like in the case of Pete Alonso today, he got what he was waiting for. So I'm really curious to see with this pitching market where it goes, because there's going to be a couple guys waiting there, and they're going to be upset. But right now the prices are kind of insane, and we're not talking Garrett Cole, we're not talking Yamamoto.
Yeah. Well, if you have questions, feel free to send them to me and Alex wherever you can find us on social media. We'll add them to our bank of mailbag questions and get to them at some point this often. Or it's possible whatever question you have will be answered by Buster Posey. Alex sat down with Buster Posey in Orlando. Let's hear from Buster.
I will say first, before we hear from Buster, I talked to him on Wednesday morning here in Orlando. So we're in that weird part of year where it's like
anything can lose its freshness any second.
Yes, keep that in mind. But Buster sat down. We'll see when is the next time we have reason to, we'll see if there's a press conference coming.
All right, Buster Posey, it's been a very quiet week, but you did have some really good news, and I know it wasn't very quiet in the suite here. Yeah. When you guys moved up from 15 to 4 on the lottery. You were down there, you did the show, you kind of talked about what it means to be that high a pick. Giants have had a lot of success with top 5 picks. How big is that for you?
I mean, it's huge. A little bit of good fortune, you never know. I mean, it could change the trajectory of a team for 10 plus years or more. So, now the fun part starts, debating kind of who we think might fall into that, or not fall, but be there when we pick 4th. And watching Michael Holmes, our scouting director, walk around these last 24 hours, he's got a little extra pep in his step. So it'll be fun to you're hoping when you pick right there, you find an impact player that can help you win a lot of games at the big league level for a long time.
I've seen him. It's just holding up 4 fingers everywhere he goes. He's excited about this. It has been a very quiet week, not just for you guys, but in the industry in general. Has that surprised you at all?
I don't know. I mean, this is my second year doing it, so I don't know how different this is from last year. For us last year, we signed Adames right before the winter meetings and knew that was probably going to be our big move. Yeah, I think you somewhat alluded to it in the first question. It's quiet as far as news. It's certainly not quiet on the suite. There's a lot of different ideas being thrown around amongst ourselves and then with other teams. And it's I learned last year you think you might have something and you don't, and maybe you think you have something again and you don't, and a lot of times you don't. So that's kind of the way things are.
As a catcher, you're able to control the game. As an executive, you have to be patient. Is it hard for you as we sit here in mid-December to just be patient and know that there's still a ton of players out there?
I don't think it's hard. I mean, I think I just understand that that's part of it. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's hard. I mean, I think everybody would tell you that, you wish you could sign and trade for every player that you want, but the reality is that's just not going to happen. I mean, I had to be patient as a player when I was 0 for 15 and wanting to, try to find a way to get some sleep at night. So it's part of it, and we'll keep going and see what we can do to try to improve the team that we feel is in a really good spot to really feel like we're right there. We're right there to getting back to where we all want to go and know that the Giants belong.
A lot has been made this offseason about maybe financially where you guys are at. How would you describe to fans maybe where you're at and what you're able to take to Greg at times?
Yeah, I mean, the way I would describe it is that Greg and the rest of the ownership group, from my experience, has always been very willing to listen. So if we find a player that we think is going to help us win games and compete for a World Series, they'll listen on it. At the same time, I mean, they're pragmatic people as well, and so that's part of my job is being able, and Zach's job, being able to say we believe in this player, and then there's a conversation to be had with them. But I go back to the Devers trade last year. It's not like we took on a guy making
$260.
We took on a lot of money, and so the willingness is there. Just it needs to make sense for us.
When you look forward and maybe what you're looking at with some of these long-term contracts, how much in the back of your head is the potential of labor uncertainty and not knowing how much you'll lose a year from now and what this roster might look like 3 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, like you said, I think it's in the back of your head. I mean, ultimately, the way I try to think about it is like our job is to win in 26. Like I mentioned earlier that we feel like we have a team that's right there and capable of doing that. So that's really how I'm approaching it is we're trying to construct a roster that we feel like is going to be great in 26.
I know there's some things that you don't necessarily want to talk about in terms of like qualifying offers, stuff like that. One thing that in the past, I think there's a perception that maybe this new front office doesn't like opt out as much as the previous one, which gave him out quite often. You guys have done the big deal with Willie. Obviously, you take on Devers, a big, just traditional deal. When you see some of these other deals that do have the opt-outs now, how do you feel after doing a year of this and maybe having these conversations with agents?
I'm definitely not opposed to them. Again, I just think that you're weighing, like any deal that you're going to do, you're weighing the upside and the downside of it, and how that does impact you in the short term and the long term. But definitely not opposed to it.
I remember after a year of Farhan doing this, he said, I kind of looked around and said, young pitching, that's a huge hole in this organization. A couple drafts where they basically only take pitchers. Is there anything over the last year when you've just sat back and watched and you go like, this is one area that we can really target and get better at?
I mean, on the position player side, I mean, I think it's probably pretty obvious based on some of the trades we've made and how we've drafted. I'm a believer in contact and that you can develop power if you've got somebody that can put the ball in play. So that's probably, a decent philosophy that we're trying to hold true to. And again, there's exceptions to that thought as well. I mean, pitching, I don't think you'd ever ask somebody and say, we've got plenty of pitching.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need any more pitching. So you're always looking for great arms that you think can help you.
You've been very high on that group, and last spring you were very high in that group. Obviously, Kyle helps you get Devers. Landon Roop establishes himself. When you look at that whole group now with Roop and Birdsong and Tidwell and Tang, all these guys, how many of them do you think are in your plans for the start of next year? And how much of this is, like you said, you're going to need them over the course of the year?
Well, I'd say that's up to them. It's up to them on how they perform. So certainly hope that there's a a handful of them that were saying like, we need this guy in the rotation, or we need him in the pen. But ultimately it's going to boil down to how they perform.
I finished with this a year ago. This time you guys are poised to sign Joshua Gonzalez. Has a very good first year. You're poised again to do very well internationally. You've had some time now to look at that. I'm sure maybe something you didn't get to see as much as a player. What kind of impact have you seen from that group on this organization?
Well, Joe Salermo, leading the charge for us in the international department, has done a great job. I mean, Joshua is somebody that we spent some time talking about yesterday, and look, he's 17, 18 years old, but I mean, some of the reviews from our scouts and are glowing reviews. And again, you try not to get too excited because you understand that there's a lot that can change for somebody that's 17 or 18 years old by the time that they're going to be in the big leagues. But he's somebody that we're really excited about. There's a handful of pitchers now that have been at the low A level or high A that have come from the international side that we're really high on. And as you mentioned, hopefully again here in a month, we're going to bring in another group of players that have the chance to really help us.
Was there a moment this year watching Joshua in the Dominican? I don't know how much of him you got to see on tape or watching the games that you kind of was like, oh, I get it now. I get why they were so high on him.
I mean, as much as anything, I think you just look at him and you're like, this is different. You watch the way he walks around the batting tunnel before he even takes a swing. You listen to the ball coming off his bat. The defense is very real. So I think you just combine all that. He's a very confident kid too. So it'll be exciting to watch him. I mean, he's a long way to go still, but it'll be exciting to watch him.
All right, Buster, thank you for the time. I know it's very busy. We'll maybe see you at a press conference at some point in the next few weeks. We'll see.
Maybe. Yeah, we'll see.
Thanks, Buster.